recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. It's a moment in our meetings when we remember those members of our community who've passed since our last regular meeting. Since our last meeting, we lost Jimmy Kilpatrick at the age of 82. Sally Vaughn at the age of 77. Rodrigo Velez at the young age of 45. And Debbie Calabro at the age of 55. And Debbie's a Peekskill, but her husband and son, both Danny and Kevin, are members of our DPW. So we know this is a particularly tough loss, terrible loss for them, and it's a tough loss for the village as well. So our thoughts are with them and their families. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, our first order of business this evening is a public hearing on parking space on Cortlandt Street. Ms. McCarthy-Tompkins, would you please read the public hearing notice?
Please take notice, the Board of Trustees has called for a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, November 10th, 2020 at 7 p.m. or shortly thereafter at Village Hall at 28 Beekman Avenue in Sleepy Hollow, New York, to hear and consider comments from members of the public regarding the installation of a parking limit of 15 minutes of one space to be determined on the west side of Cortlandt Street between the Peister Street and Beekman Avenue from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Residents and taxpayers of the Village of Sleepy Hollow are entitled to attend and be heard at such hearing. Village Hall is accessible to all disabled persons. By order of the Board of Trustees, October 27, 2020.
Thank you. I'll open the public hearing. Any members of the board wish to weigh in? And if any member of the public wishes to address the board on the matter of public hearing, you may do so by using the space in the middle of the room. I would just note, this was a request that came to us from a business owner who's quite an extraordinarily, if that's a word, looking to make it easier for folks to get in and out of the bakery there. And our policy and our practice over time has been to try to assist business owners where we can, especially in things like that. Personally, I think a 15-minute zone there would be very helpful. And it would not cause any kind of a disruption on the street. So I would be in favor of this.
I agree. I'm in favor of it also.
We will be not voting on that this evening, but potentially the only thing that we would be voting on is whether or not we keep the public hearing going or we close it. And then we have 60 days to deliberate on that. I'll ask again, does any member of the public wish to address the board on the matter of the public hearing? It seems not. Ms. McCarthy-Tompkins, have we received any correspondence on the matter of the public hearing?
We have not, with the exception of what I sent out last time.
Okay. Which was the request?
Yes, it was a request.
Yep. Members of the board, what's your pleasure? Close the public hearing? Keep it open until next week? Close the business on Tuesday? I think it's a pretty straightforward matter. So I'm not sure that we need to have additional comments.
I'm fine with closing it.
I am.
Mr. Levy, Mr. Rosenblum?
I'm fine for keeping it open until next Tuesday for emails or written comments.
I'm good with that, too.
Good? All right, then I will adjourn the public hearing until 5 PM next Tuesday, which is November 17th. Council, do I need a motion to close the public hearing at that time?
Yes, sir, you do, but to be left open for written comments or emails until 5 p.m.
Can somebody move that eloquent suggestion there?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Seconded from the deputy mayor. Okay, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Got the waves there. Okay, that's 6-0. So we are adjourned until 5 p.m. Tuesday the 17th. We have a warrant that was distributed earlier. If you have any questions on the warrant, please direct them to the treasurer. The warrant was large by our standards. It was $1,973,220.10. A big part of that, obviously, as the board members know, since we passed it last week, was a transfer to the Sleepy Hollow Local Development Corporation of $1,580,000, which is the amount of money that the village is required to put up for its grant for its match for a grant that we received to do work that will help prepare the site for our coming new DPW. Questions about any other part of the warrant? Please direct them to Sarah.
Motion to approve the warrant.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Then all in favor say aye.
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 John and Glenn, if you just go like that.
I did. I give a thumbs
No,
up.
no, I'm just looking at the screen in front of me, and it's easier when we get around to resolutions. But thank you. Warrant is approved.
Thank you.
Couple of announcements. We had another public hearing earlier today on an update of our hazard mitigation plan. It was held at 5 o'clock to solicit input on updating the plan. A copy of the plan along with the meeting agenda will be posted on the village website. Comments on updates to the hazard mitigation plan will be accepted until November 24th. So that's 2 weeks from today. Please send your comments to Anthony Giacchio, the village administrator, and that's agiacchio@sleepyhollowny.org. AGIACCIO at sleepyhollowny.org. Also, tomorrow is Veterans Day. There will be a ceremony at Patriots Park at 10:30 tomorrow morning. I would urge you all to attend. It's an opportunity to recognize those who have given their lives to protect our country and our rights and our freedoms, and also to recognize those who are currently in uniform and continuing to protect those rights and freedoms. So I look forward to seeing you there tomorrow at 10:30 at Patriots Park. Another reminder for folks, we are still in the throes of this pandemic. Anybody with kids in the schools here knows it all too well. The high school has just been shut down for 2 weeks. We had a recent uptick, an outbreak among high school students and other students in some of the other schools as well. So it's not just students, it's also staff have been affected. And I know it's been a long time for all of us, and at times some of these safeguards can seem tedious, but the virus is real, it's kicking up. The numbers, not just around the country, but here as well, are starting to go back up again. And as the positive cases go up, the hospitalizations go up, the deaths go up. So please protect yourself, please protect the folks around you, and please continue to be careful with this thing. It may not hurt you, but some old person like me could get leveled, all right? So I didn't mean that as an invitation to come cough on me, but and I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep a sense of humor at a very, very difficult time. But this is obviously no laughing matter. I mean, it has already taken members of our community away from us. More than almost 600 members of our community have come down with the coronavirus. So please be careful. One of the things that I'm really worried about is we've managed to partially reopen many of our businesses here, and I would hate to see us end up being one of those microclusters where we have so many cases locally, or it goes up above a certain point, and we would have to go back to our businesses and tell them they have to shut down. That would really be devastating. And so all of us together have got to work on this and make sure that that doesn't happen. And I thank you for all of you for your cooperation with this. We'll move on to public comments. If anyone would like to address the board, you may do so now. We have a new setup here in the boardroom with our microphone, so I can't direct you to the microphone in the middle of the room, but there is one if you look up where it used to be. So if you could stand in the customary spot. Again, if anyone would like to address the board, you may do so now. Yes, ma'am. Please be reminded. I don't think I have to remind you, Sonia, but you have 3 minutes.
Surely. My name is Sonia Monroe. I live at 63 New Broadway. On behalf of my neighbors in Weber Park, I've come to you tonight for an update. Do we have any news on when New Broadway will be repaved and the white parking space lines removed?
Do you have any other comments?
Yes,
Ms. Monroe?
I have a second concern as well.
Please.
I just walked here from New Broadway, crossing at the top of St. Paul's Hill, between Open Door and Mickey's Automotive. Have you heard anything, or have you been able to build a fire under the New York State DOT to fix that? It's really dangerous. 3 of the 4 bollards that the village placed there to protect walkers are gone. The trucks are driving over the sidewalk, and they're going to kill somebody. That's the end of my comments.
Thank you, ma'am. And does anyone else wish to address the board? Okay. As you know, it's not a question and answer. I will give you
But can you
a quick answer anyway.
Yes,
I will
please.
personally get back to you on the schedule for New Broadway.
Okay.
And we have a meeting with DOT later on this week.
Excellent. Please build a fire under them on that
I
one.
would hope that the meeting would turn out to be excellent.
Good.
We have a meeting, we have an opportunity to put our demands in front of them, and we'll see.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
thank you, ma'am. If anyone else wishes to address the board, I would remind you that we have another opportunity later on in our meeting. Right now, we're going to move on to resolutions. If someone could take the first one.
Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow to approve consultant to administer length of service award program, LoSAP. Be it resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow approves the attached proposal from Hometown Firefighter Services to administer the length of service awards program, LoSAP, at an annual cost of $4,300 for the fire department and $3,000 for the ambulance corps, subject to the village attorney's approval. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's 6-0. And the resolution is approved. Before we go on, I should have acknowledged this at the beginning of the meeting, but we're still under an executive order from Governor Cuomo that allows us to have these teleconference type meetings. And two of our members, Deputy Mayor Rosenblum and Trustee Levy, are participating through that, and those of you in the room can see them on the screens here. I would also note that our village code allows us to do this as well. Just want to acknowledge for the record their presence here today. All right, resolution number 2.
Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow approving mutual aid agreement for the police department. Be it resolved that the mayor and the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow authorize the mayor to sign the attached mutual aid and rapid response for the police departments of Westchester County agreement. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that's also 6-0. Thank you. Next resolution.
Yes, I just want to confirm
Did I go out of
the
order?
authorization for the judge. Okay.
You did,
Oh, I'm sorry, I just read the next one.
but we approved it, so we can just take number 2 as number 3. You want to do, or you can pick the remaining 2, which one you want to do.
The one I have in front of me is about the judge. Would that be okay? Does that
Go
work?
for it.
You have it.
I have it, right here.
No, the other two. It's there.
No, Trustee Spiro has chosen to read
Oh.
that one.
I'm fine. I will
She
do
may go ahead
whatever,
and do
I will
that.
accommodate whatever. Is this
confused.
okay?
Sorry
It's
about
what
that.
I
I
Go
messed it
for
up.
it.
No, that's
Where are
okay.
we?
All right, that is working. Hello? Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow on Associate Village Justice. Whereas the Village Justice of the Village of Sleepy Hollow Village has resigned, and whereas the Associate Village Justice is ready to assume the Village Justice's responsibilities, and whereas Mahopac Bank requires the Board of Trustees of the Village, Board of Trustees, to adopt certain provisions for a bail account. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village adopts the provisions of Village of Sleepy Hollow bail account annexed hereto and authorizes Al Varela as its Associate Village Justice to execute, certify, witness, and attest to it, and be it further resolved that the village administrator and staff are authorized and directed to take any and all action necessary to implement this resolution. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the resolution is approved 6-0. We have, it's actually 2 more resolutions on awarding pandemic points to our newly adopted LoSAP program, and we discussed at length last week in our work session. So I'd ask council, these are not horribly long, but they are lengthy.
They are far too long to read.
Thank you.
someone can read one of them and then the other one, starting at the bottom at the point that's now therefore be it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow amending the length of service award point system for fire department pursuant to Chapter 113 of the laws of 2020. Now therefore be it resolved that in accordance with the above referenced statutory authority, the LoSAP point system is hereby amended to afford active volunteer firefighter program participants credit for additional points per month for the period of March through June I'm assuming of 2020, at the rate of March 4 points, April 5 points, May 5 points, and June 5 points. And LoSAP coordinators who maintain point system records are directed to adjust the point totals for each active volunteer firefighter program participant for the time during such period that he or she was listed as an active volunteer firefighter. And be it further resolved that volunteer firefighters that were not on the active rolls during all or part of the aforesaid period due to a leave of absence, suspension, or other reason shall not be eligible for special COVID-19 points during any period that they were not active firefighters participating in the accumulation of points under the LoSAP. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees reserves the authority under this resolution to grant special COVID-19 points during later periods in 2020 and 2021 if the state of emergency remains in effect and the Board is required to go back to emergency response and point generating activity restrictions if future developments with regard to the pandemic require that a new set of restriction be put in place for additional periods of time. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
It also is 6-0, and the resolution is approved.
Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow amending the length of service award point system for ambulance corps pursuant to Chapter 113 of the laws of 2020. Now therefore be it resolved that in accordance with the above referenced statutory authority, the LoSAP point system is hereby amended to afford active volunteer ambulance corps program participants credit for additional points per month for the period of March through June 2020 at the rate of March 4 points, April 5 points, May 5 points, and June 5 points, and LoSAP coordinators who maintain point system records are directed to adjust the point totals for each active volunteer ambulance corps program participant for the time during such period that he or she was listed as an active volunteer ambulance corps member. And be it further resolved that volunteer ambulance corps members that were not on the active rolls, during all or part of the aforesaid period due to leave of absence, suspension, or other reason shall not be eligible for special COVID-19 points during any period that they were not active ambulance corps member participating in the accumulation of points under the LoSAP. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees reserves the authority under this resolution to grant special COVID-19 points during later periods in 2020 and 21 if the state of emergency remains in effect and the Board is required to go back to emergency response and point generating activity restrictions if future developments with regard to the pandemic require that a new set of restriction be put in place for additional periods of time. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Two more, so that's 6-0, and resolution is approved as well. Move on to old business and new business. Just one other thing that I should have had in my announcements, and that is I said tomorrow is Veterans Day. Veterans Day is also a public holiday, or it's a holiday for village employees, which means that our DPW folks will not be out doing recycling pickup tomorrow. They will pick up again next Wednesday, so please hang on to your stuff and be patient. and it will be there. So village offices will be closed, and there will be no recycling pickup tomorrow. Any old business?
I have one update, if I may. And it's a follow-up to Pfj Planning Proposal. This was distributed last week to the board. And first, I want to solicit for any recommendations or ideas from the board, if I may. And I will then continue on with my recommendations and some next steps. Any comments, any ideas?
I'm not prepared to comment on it yet.
That's fine, and we can, so let me go ahead, if not everybody's looked at it, why don't I give you a little bit more of where we are to date, and then we can follow back up in the work session next week, if that's good for you.
Mm-hmm.
So as, I think it's important for everybody to understand the Pfj Planning consulting firm. They were the ones that had done the initial comprehensive plan, and we have reached out to them to now follow up with the next phase of actual implementation in some of the strategies. And in having a discussion with Anthony and myself, they have put the proposal together to do the first phase of the zoning. And I'd just like to read two different pieces for everybody so that the audience knows as well. And based on the conversation, the village is implementing a short-term zoning recommendation of recently adopting the comprehensive plan. And if I may add, that's the reason why we want to really surface this, because it is going on to, 9 months to a year. And it's really important to start exercising our rights against that so it doesn't morph into something else where it's not executing what the vision is. They've reviewed the full list of zoning recommendations from the plan and suggest focusing on the first phase of the implementation in the inner village. So there is a second part of it that will come later, and it's about the natural environment and the sustainability. However, we really wanted to tackle the inner village, and then that also then gets more tactical on the parking, which is very critical and on everybody's list. So that's just a baseline, and what they would be working is what we've become very familiar with the committee itself, with the public hearings and engagement, and all of that will be put forward in a timeline. But I think it's important for everybody to understand that that there will be a small technical review committee that includes representation from the Board of Trustees, the Planning Board, the Zoning Board of Appeals, as well as Anthony and the village architect, Sean McCarthy. So that being said, I just wanted to give the update that we had a meeting, both Anthony and I, with Chairman Marjorie Shue, and just giving her the proposal, getting her, up to speed as to some of the things that I'm mentioning here, and also with the understanding that I'll get more involved and become more of a liaison to the Board of Trustees on any of the updates that have any impact on the comprehensive plan. In addition to that, coming out of it, it's meeting also then next steps with Sean, and recognizing that we do have 2 open spots on the zoning board and still continuing to solicit for appointment on that. However, it is my recommendation, and after speaking with Deputy Mayor, we talked a little bit more about, let's run parallel with that, even though there's an open spot. Let's get this enacted, and then we will continue to see if anybody would like to have those appointments. So that being said, the recommendation is to move forward with the proposal and appoint them at some point once you've had time to review it, and it is my recommendation to move forward. I think we're in a good place for it.
Absolutely. I saw it when you presented it last week to us, and I think it looks
Okay.
great.
But I think it's really important if everybody would just read into it, because right now we're forming the committee, and I'd like to take recommendations from the board as I'm meeting with Sean and the chair and zoning, so we get it set off correctly.
And what in particular are the recommendations that you're
Recommending
looking
that
for?
we actually appoint, because the first thing is the appointment. We have to do a resolution for them, so that I want everybody on the board to feel comfortable if they're making any recommendation or tweaks, because it is attached to a budget. So reasonableness all set aside, still I think it's important to see if there's any finer points that people have, from best practices, from other things that we've been doing recently.
Sure.
to take that into consideration. But I'd like to move, if all goes well, perhaps at the working session, we can talk about it, make a decision, and then put it on for the following week as a resolution.
Great.
Okay? Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other new or old business? As the clerk, do we have any communications?
We received an email from Pfj that she emailed everyone on the board. Other than that, that's it.
Okay. Ms. Reddy, I know in that email requested, among other things, that the board allow residents to participate via Zoom. And it's, it's something that the board is discussing. It's been kind of difficult. It's not easy doing, just having the board members come in here and have that kind of coordination between the live meeting and participants via Zoom or WebEx or any of the other ones that are out there. So it's something we're continuing to look at. And there was also a couple of other requests in that communication about some things that hasn't been our practice and I doubt will be our practice. So by way of response, we don't include communications as part of our minutes, letters that we receive. We don't post them as part of, not always, depends on how they come in, but we will look at whatever was that she felt was left out. And lastly, there was a personal request to make sure that we pronounce your name correctly, and I would ask that you reach out to Village Hall, to Mr. Giacchio, and let him know, and we will make sure that we do not do that. Any slight was unintended, so please reach out and let us know. I'm sure there'll be further communications from you. And I would personally, I always like to get the names right, pronunciations correct. So let us know. Anything else, Ms. McCarthy-Tompkins?
No, sir.
Great. Okay, we'll move on to public comments. Does anyone wish to address the board? Michael Savitsky? I got it right? Okay. If there are no public comments, I would like to entertain, or I will, I'm strongly suggesting that someone make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Can we get a second on that as well?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. John is abstain, oh, okay, all right. Thank you. We are adjourned. Be well and be safe, ladies and gentlemen.